We are here, the royal we, are here with Juliet Escoria, and I am holding her beloved, my beloved, our beloved. Is it backwards? Do I have to do anything to make
No,
it?
it's correct to me.
You are the snake. First of all, I just want to say I love this book so much, and I would strongly suggest you go out. What's the I always like to say label, not house. What's the label that it's on?
It's on Soft Skull.
Soft Skull. Okay, they're really rad. It's got a very different tone than Juliet the Maniac. It feels like you're more the character is more in control of the telling. Did that feel
I mean,
like
I think so because there's kids stuff in here. I wasn't like planning on this, but I think it's kind of like the years before Juliet the Maniac and then the years after. Um, but like Juliet the Maniac, that narrator version of, myself, like just to be, honest about that because I think sometimes like when you're labeled as autofiction, you want to kind of shy away from that. I don't care. It's a version of myself that is in most, if not all, of my writing. Um, so teenager with lots of mental problems. And then I don't know, like I never really kind of thought about that, but I think maybe it's just me getting more skilled at honing language, perhaps. I do think that there was like a lot of things that I was thinking about in terms of control, and wanting to control life and not being able to be in control of life and that kind of part of just being a human in the world, but also having to deal with substance use and with mental illness and with gender and with youth and all of these different kind of themes within the book. But yeah, that's so interesting to me always when a book comes out and you start seeing how other people perceive it.
did you notice a difference in how you felt going into some of these stories? Because I know for myself it is a self-surgery and you're going into some pretty painful without labeling it, but objectively,
Mhm.
uh it is it's painful. How does that affect you when you're writing, and do you do anything to kind of get yourself, if it does, out of that state?
It's kind of like because I wrote a short story collection because I felt for my novel, like I so put myself through the ringer emotionally that I wanted to do something that was easier, in terms of like being emotionally close to it. And like a story collection, it's so many different parts. So it feels more kind of diffuse, I guess. Um, and some of the stories, like one, I wanted to do like a novella based on this relationship that I had. And it was just too painful. And so I was like, I don't need to do this to myself. I don't need to write this novella, maybe ever. And I certainly don't need to do it now. So I'm not going to put that in the book. I'm going to stop writing that. Most of these stories, I think like it was kind of like I didn't feel like I was like really kind of suffering as I was writing them. Like it was kind of enjoyable in a way. And I think that part of that is like just changing how I view my past self of, like I like her. She's flawed, but she's funny and got through some pretty difficult stuff. There is a lot more fictionalizing in this collection than in my novel, too. Like all of the stories, except for the one about the nun, are based in something that happened to me. But there's more kind of like adding and stuff that I completely made up than in Juliet the Maniac. And there's some totally made up stuff in Black Cloud. But yeah, this I would say is probably the most fictionalized work that I've done.
I feel like in here there's this feeling that she knows she's going to be okay, and she can lay out all the shit that she was a part of, that she did, she experienced, and that there's this endpoint knowing that actually I'm gonna be okay. Where in Maniac, it's like, I don't fucking know.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think like I certainly didn't know that at the time that I was gonna be okay. But maybe that's just kind of, you would hope that a writer when they get older matures. Maybe there's some maturity there that wasn't in the process of Juliet the Maniac. But I think also like the years of my life in Juliet the Maniac were like the worst years. And it's funny to look back about when I was like 18 or 19 or 20 or 25, where things were still like really dark. But for me, they were better. Like this is better than it was when I was 16. So I guess if you have such a low point like early in your life, then you can be a degenerate druggie who's mentally unstable and comparatively you're doing a lot better. So that's always just been kind of a mind fuck to me is like, wow, like I'm miserable. I can barely do life, but things are better than they were 2 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever.
I I
And
wanted
I did want to put some stuff in there about what my life is like now, which is like, I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for quite a while. And what that's like, because it's not like you're like suddenly a normal person and suddenly every day you're totally sane and happy. But there's a lot of hope and optimism and tenderness that I experience in my life now that I didn't before. So I didn't want like, a happy, now I'm all better type of stories in there, but I did want some that were kind of showing the complications and nuances of what it means to be given like this, I don't know, ninth chance at life or seventh chance at life or however many chances I was actually given and what a gift that is. There's not
like
like a non-cliche way to say that. It's a gift.
it is a gift, and I think for me it comes through in the story about her becoming a mother, and it's interesting how you change it to describing her as the woman, right?
And the stepmother, yeah.
Stepmother, yeah.
Yeah, both, yeah.
Yeah. And that's me. Why did you decide to make that choice?
I mean, first, just because it came that way. Like, that's how the story just kind of like started in my brain was the woman, the stepmother. And then I kept that because it seemed like, that was about when Scott and I first got married. And all of a sudden, I had these two new labels or roles that I'd never had before, which is being a wife and being a stepmother. And those are very major changes than the labels that I had before. So I think just kind of like functioning as that. And I also like the role of stepmother and like the loadedness of that word is so different than what I've experienced. So it seems like there should be like multiple words for stepmother, but the evil stepmother. And I'm pretty sure I'm not an evil stepmother. So just kind of like playing around with that charged label. Coming to West Virginia and getting married on paper was like so stupid. Like it was a good idea. And it was really
Why
scary.
not? Why do you say that?
Well, because Scott was struggling with getting sober. He was struggling with getting medicated. He'd just been divorced. So
Yeah,
there's that. And then on my end, I'd just gotten out of the mental hospital. I was like really unstable. And we hadn't been dating that long when we got engaged. And moving to West Virginia, if you're from a big city, you've only ever lived in big cities, is crazy.
I just want to say
And
because you say that in the book, like that's like a few lines. I'm like, holy, it struck me like, holy fucking shit. Like, how did this work?
yeah, but I just like, and I was terrified because Scott was going through this thing. He'd just been divorced not that long ago, and he kept on like being like, "We're not getting married. We shouldn't get married. This what or the wedding is off." And I just like, okay, whatever, and didn't take it seriously. And I remember at one point I was like taking a walk, and I was asking myself, I was like, "Are you doing something stupid? Like it seems really bad that this guy that you're marrying keeps on trying to call off the wedding." And like I just had like this gut feel of like, no, this is what you should do. You should marry this crazy person. And you should go to this state that is fucked up and weird and that, is just so different than the other places that I've lived. And against all odds, that was like correct. So I don't know, that's just something I look back and I'm like, wow, I had some sort of like, I don't know, gut feeling, gut instinct that I was able to listen to, even though it was stupid on paper.
Well, you can see through reading your work of how that, again, being made ready and that giving yourself over and that sense of trust and faith, which getting sober, and being involved in a program of recovery, uh, which I also think writing, is a continuation of that. I mean, there's writing in 12-step programs, which kind of got me in that habit of peeling back layers and looking for honesty, like what's what is true here, what is true, what is true, prepares you for.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels all very much like it bleeds into each other of all of the different things that are technically wrong with me are also the things that are right with me. And the writing is the addiction, is the shit, is the like the things that make it so that I am happy and stable. Like it's all the same thing. They all feed into each other and are the cause of each other and so on, which I don't know. I like that. I like being able to work both creatively and for money, um, in things where, the stuff that I've been through benefits me and informs that.